we're really building this to be a one-stop shop so that any homeschooling family can have all the resources, curriculum, teachers, friends, community, games, activities, even things like organizing sports outside of the platform. This isn't just an online thing. We want people meeting in person. Like, you have 7 kids? Oh my God, how do you do it? I'm like, I could not imagine my life without these 7 people. These are like the greatest 7 people I've ever met. It's a blessing. It's not some curse. It's an amazing blessing. And so I don't look at families bigger than ours that way either. I'm just like, more power to you. Awesome. You know what? Like, children are a blessing, from start to finish, but you have to parent them. That's the key to it. And I feel like I am able to be an active, involved parent to these 7 kids, and we're really raising some wonderful people. I mean, they are truly great people.
I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin for Family show, where every guest is your new BFF. That's your Bitcoin friend forever. I'm Scott from Shamri, and it's an honor to have you all here again. Thanks to everyone who has been listening or watching. I hope you're finding the show fun and educational. And if you have been enjoying the show, I'd love it if you liked, subscribed, shared. If you're feeling really generous, go ahead and drop a comment or review as well. Every bit helps in spreading the word to other families. Now, on to this week's show. I'm excited to welcome a father of 7 to the show. You heard that right, 7. Thanks for taking the time to join. Jordan Page, how's it going?
It's great, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
No, honored to have you here. You do hold the record for largest family, going in 2 months into the show. So
nice.
We'll see how long that lasts. I have a feeling it'll probably last for a good amount of time, but you never know with Bitcoiners. But excited to talk about family life, Firefly and education and all that stuff as we dive deeper. But before we go into all that stuff, maybe kind of from a high level, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your family, your kids' ages, whatever you're comfortable sharing before we dive deeper into the story.
Sure. So my name's Jordan Page. Live up in the Pacific Northwest, and my wife Mary and I have 7 children. We have 5 boys and 2 girls, ages 17 and a half, 16. Those are my 2 oldest sons. And then 14 and 13 are my girls. And then 11, 9 and a half, and 7 are my 3 youngest boys. And we have a ranch up here in northeastern Washington. And we are longtime Bitcoiners. We've been in the space, I guess, since 2010. I remember when Bitcoin was 33 cents. So I've seen the evolution of the entire thing, and it's been quite a ride. I was super excited to meet you in Las Vegas at the Bitcoin conference and see what you're doing. And my kids love the Shamri book that I bought about Satoshi Nakamoto and his fabulous Bitcoin invention. And so that's just like a little profile of us as a family. We have, at our ranch, we raise animals. We've had horses and cows and goats and chickens, and we get about 20 to 30 eggs a day. And so the kids do chores, and we've been dealing with wildfires up here over the last week. And so, but that's finally seems to have subsided, but it was looking like Mordor across the river from us for a little bit. But yeah, that's just something that you deal with, up in the Northwest.
Totally get it. Living down here in San Diego, different type of wildfire, but getting it from the desert side of things. So we know the drill, but excited to dive into farm life and homeschool and being a Bitcoiner since 2010 as we go deeper into the questions. But to kick things off, let's start on the more lighthearted note.
Sure.
With a few icebreakers. So as you just said, you and your family live on a large ranch or farm up in the Pacific Northwest. And so question number 1 is, if you could have any animal join your farm besides what you already have, what would it be and why?
Wow. Well, my wife was seriously injured by a horse a couple years ago. And so we had to get rid of that horse. I would like to have my own horse that's just mine for riding, which I don't have right now. And I want to get my wife a new horse. But animals that we have not had, I think it would be really fun to have some sheep. And my daughter crochets. She has a crocheting business. She makes little animals and all different kinds of things. And, it would be fun to be able to have our own wool and to be able to make yarn out of that. Yeah.
Good answer. And I think our daughters would get along. Our daughter that you might have met in Vegas loves to
right.
knit and crochet and all that stuff. So perfect tie in there.
Awesome.
Well, question number 2, if you could host a farm barbecue, with any special guests, real or fictional, from now or in the past, who would it be and why?
Man, well, I'd love to meet and talk to the real Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he or they might be. I'd love to flip burgers and brats with Satoshi. That'd be really something to get
The fir-
to. I would really like to ask Satoshi how he or she or they, if it's a group, how they feel about this thing that they built basically becoming a worldwide phenomenon, and like just the psychological impact for them of that, and how that's been. I think that would be really neat to talk about over burgers.
Perfect. Well, hopefully, if that ever happens, you can invite us too.
Right.
Question number 3. You mentioned that your family is big into Star Wars and Marvel's movies to me.
But yeah, yeah.
So, what is the one movie from either collection that's gotten watched the most over the years?
Well, I'm an original trilogy, fanatic, and the Empire Strikes Back is by far the greatest Star Wars production of all time. And so that's the one that I've, watched with the kids the most, I think. But they love the prequels, and they love The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian series is, I think, one of their favorites, and I really love it too. I think it's a lot of fun. And with Marvel, I mean, God, the kids just went crazy for Endgame. They just loved Endgame. But I'm an old school guy. I really love the original Iron Man and the original Captain America and Thor. Those are 3 of my favorites. Yeah.
Very nice. Our daughter has recently gotten into Spider-Man, so that's been her new obsession recently. So it's been fun to
Nice.
kind of go down that rabbit hole with her.
Sure.
Icebreaker number 4. What's the funniest excuse one of your kids has given to skip a chore?
That maybe well, this has actually happened. Dad, my feet hurt. And I'm like, okay, well, what's wrong with your feet? They just hurt. And I'll kind of, rub their feet a little bit, maybe give a little kiss. Oh, they still hurt. Okay, well, we go do chores, come back, and they're running around, and there's there's nothing wrong with your feet. You just
They're
didn't want to do
magically
chores.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, parents know the drill there.
Sure.
Perfect. And last one, if you could have a robot helper on the farm, what would it do for your family to help out?
What would it do? My gosh. Well, I mean, I'm sure I could program it to take care of the chickens. That's the dirtiest job, I think, with the dealing with the eggs in the chicken yard and all that. But I would program it to be an assistant for my wife, because she is just superwoman and is always so busy, and it'd be nice for her to have some more help. I mean, all the kids help, and and I do, and like we're a pretty tight family unit, but there's even having as many kids as we have, there's always things that end up falling through the cracks, and there's just things around the farm that need to get fixed, or that I don't have time to do because I'm like completely overloaded as an entrepreneur, and trying to launch a international platform. So it's like it'd be nice for me to have a robot that could do some repairs on certain outbuildings, or just clean up, riffraff around the place, organize things a little bit more. I have an old friend that is like an uncle to my kids, that comes here, every summer or every other summer. And last summer he did a lot of that stuff. So it was like having a robot assistant, but he didn't come this summer. So a few things have fallen through the cracks this year.
There you go. Well, maybe one day we can make that robot a reality, I'm sure, before it's all said
I
and
think
done.
that's coming sooner than later, honestly.
For sure. Elon's on it. Perfect. Well, awesome. Those are fun. Now let's kind of dive deeper into your story, the family
Sure.
life, and maybe start back at the beginning. You mentioned living on the farm now, but before that, you're back east. So kind of how did you and your wife meet, first off, and what was the genesis behind moving from the East Coast to the West
Oh,
Coast?
this is my favorite story.
Perfect.
I love this story. So I'm a musician. I've been a professional musician since 2004, but I've been a musician my whole life. I'm a guitar player and a singer and a songwriter, and I've toured all over the U.S. and in other countries as well. I've had some success. But at the time I met my wife, I was living on the Eastern Shore of Maryland with my folks. I had just moved back from Seattle back to Maryland after doing a year of service in AmeriCorps, and I had a dead end job working at some little guitar store, fixing guitars and selling drum sets and things like that, and I was not really living out my potential and the things that God had really sort of laid before me to accomplish with my life. And I was dating another girl, and I was interested in her and I, taking our relationship to the next level, and she just was not ready, to make our relationship, I guess, more official. I had made overtures about us possibly getting married, and she wasn't ready for that. And I hadn't like asked her, but like I was just I was testing the waters, and I really had a conversation with the Lord, and I just said, Lord, I realize that this person is not the person that you want for me. I'm ready to meet my partner. I want to meet my partner. And a month to the day later, she walked in the door in the bar where I was performing. And it was this little hole in the wall place that was part of a hotel on the beach, and it was like the Eastern Shore of Maryland's best kept secret, And she walked in, and I had love at first sight. Literally, like the song Dreamweaver started playing in my head as she walked in. I just knew this woman was the one. It was like God just said, there she is. You asked for it, you got it. And I forgot the words of the song that I was in the middle of playing as she walked in. I thought she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I started like looking for songs that I could play to get her to notice me and to look at me so that we could have a moment. And I threw out maybe 10 songs before she looked over, and it was the Beatles and I Love Her that got her attention. And we shared that moment, and it was just all over from there. I went and talked to her during the break, and we were like old friends immediately. It was so great. And we just fell in love so hard over that summer of 2004. And I think I asked her to marry me within 3 months. We made it official by Christmas. And then we were engaged for 3 years until 2007. And we got married on July 7th of 07. We wanted, because it was 777. We wanted to get married on 777. And, we've just had an amazing life together, and it's been wonderful. And I'm still incredibly in love with her. And we just have we have 7 kids. So it all worked out. But moving west, we were living in Maryland, and I was really aware of the abundance of the population that was expanding in our area. And we were in Annapolis, Maryland, where the Naval Academy is, and right between DC and Baltimore. And I couldn't get down the street on a Tuesday afternoon without just gridlock for hours. And I was just like, we got to get out of here. We got to get somewhere a little more rural. And so we started looking at places. We ended up in Indiana because I had a lot of friends there and contacts there, and we were living on a big place for about 4 years, and we had 2 babies there. And then we had an opportunity to move out to Montana to a beautiful ranch where I had performed at an event. And I was given an offer I couldn't refuse, and we took the plunge and moved. And we were living in Eureka, Montana, for about 2 years, had a baby there, and then I had made some more connections as being a musician and an activist, and I got out here to Washington and just fell in love with the area, with the people, and we ended up moving out here, and we've been here since 2017 and planted roots and bought our ranch. And we're just right in the center of a beautiful community of wonderful people and believers in Jesus Christ, and we just very liberty-minded folks, and it's awesome. We're exactly where God wanted us to be all along, and I totally see his plan in hindsight, like having seen it all come together. I totally understand like why and how we ended up out here.
Well, that's an awesome story.
Yeah.
Interesting that you had, such a quick kind of love story at the beginning, and then was there a reason for the longer engagement on the tail end?
My wife and I, we kind of did things backwards compared to how we're doing things with our kids, and teaching them to wait for your spouse, essentially, if you get my drift, and to get married first and then build the life together. We started building our life together, and then we bought a house together before we were married. You know what I mean? It was like everything was kind of backwards, and we didn't have a lot of great guidance, but we've learned a lot through that process. So we were very set on getting married on July 7th of 07, because 777 is the Lord's number in the Bible, and that was important to both of us, and we wanted to honor him and how he brought us together in that. And yeah, I mean, that was really the reason for the long engagement. I would have married her right away. I was totally in, but it did give us a chance to really, really get to know each other. And we really, I would say, like, even though we met when I was almost 25, like, and she was 23, I really feel like we grew up together. And she feels that way too. She said that to people, like, we met at a critical time when we were becoming the adults that we would eventually grow into. And we really went through that process together and went through a lot. But, it was all part of the Lord's plan. And here we are. And now we're doing things better. We're doing things the right way with our kids, differently than how it was done with us. And so ultimately, if we had to make mistakes in order to guide 7 new people to not make those mistakes, and those mistakes were totally worth making.
Don't do it all. Do all for your kids, no doubt about it. And speaking of the kids, so was a large family always part of the plans? Obviously, the number 7 tying back to your wedding date.
No,
did that?
No, I was sure we were done at 3, Scott. We had 2 boys and a girl, and everybody that I knew growing up, I mean, literally everybody I knew, nobody had more than 3 kids. More than 3 kids it wasn't even something that I thought people considered. It's like, when you get to 3, you're done. I'm one of 3. Everybody I knew had one of 3. Were one of 3. I never met anybody who had more than 3 kids. And then we had 4, and we had my second daughter. So now we had 2 boys and 2 girls. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. We have two of each. Everybody's got a roller coaster buddy at the amusement park. This is it just makes sense. And then God started talking to my wife and telling her, I have another child for you. It's a boy, and his name is Judah. I was like, no, not just no, but emphatically no. I am not doing this. I'm done. I don't even know where I could find more love to give to another child. I feel I'm stretched way too thin right now. Like, I can't. Like, I have too much responsibility. This makes sense to me. Another kid does not make sense to me. And he was just impressing upon her every day, showing her signs and just that still small voice, just telling her, look, this is what I have for you. And she would say to me, I understand that you're not on board with this yet. At some point, I'm hoping that you will, because this is what the Lord is saying to me. And I think I fought her and him on this issue for 9 months. And what he did to hammer me over the head with this was it was at least daily, if not every other day. At some point in the day, I would be confronted with this particular scripture: a sower went sowing. And some seed fell on the rocks, and some seed was eaten by birds and choked by thorns, but some seed fell on fertile ground, and blah, blah, blah. And I was bombarded with this scripture so many times I grew to hate it. And and every time I saw it, I would get mad. And I was further entrenched in my obstinance and my position of no. And then I was on tour, and I came home. Everybody's asleep. This is when we're still in Indiana. And I see our big family Bible laying on the counter. It's a big leather-bound Bible, says the Page family on it. And I look at it sideways, because I'm like, I'm not going over there. I know exactly what it's going to say. There's no doubt in my mind what it's going to say. It's going to say a sower went sowing. And I finally went over there, and I looked at it. And the first thing that I saw was, he that receiveth this child in my name receiveth me. And he that receiveth me receiveth the one who sent. And that was just like a Chuck Norris roundhouse kick to the chest. And I felt completely convicted in this moment, in my obstinance, in my just unwillingness to be obedient. And I realized, like, he really wants this. So who am I to stand in the way? If he's got another child for us, then okay. All right, fine. I submitted. And it was like we got pregnant immediately. And 9 months later, Judah shows up. And Judah was the most obstinate, difficult kid of all of them put together. And, he's also wonderful and brilliant and loving and sweet and amazing. But he has been incredibly challenging. And I understand that as God teaching me a lesson in my obstinance and my, what a difficult son I have been for him. But, it's like Judah and I are best buddies, and like we're inseparable. I could not imagine my life without this kid. I adore him. But, he has been challenging. He'll tell you that. He's challenging. And so after that, I said no more no. Like I surrendered the no. And the next time that the Lord started speaking to us about children, I just said yes, and we lost a pregnancy, which was very, very sad. But my wife felt very convicted that he wanted us to have one more, which was number 7, which was my youngest, Michael, and we've been through a lot. Our 7th child, actually, Tommy, was born with a birth defect called craniosynostosis, which is where one of his sutures, the soft spot, one of the openings in his skull, was fused shut when he was born, and he had to undergo a gnarly surgery when he was 7 months old to correct his skull. It's actually far more common than I ever knew. I never even heard of it. I thought maybe it was like a 1 in a million thing. It's like a 1 in 1,000 thing, which means it's very common, happens all the time. But it was very, very challenging for our family. But again, with God's help and a wonderful community and lots of prayer, we got through it. And Tommy's he's a wonderful kid. He's got a beautiful shaped head, and he's doing great.
Well, that is an amazing story from start to end on, where the 7 came from, and, kind of seeing that all the way through. And are you guys done? Is there a chance for more?
Yeah, no, we're done. Okay. We're all done.
Wanted to make sure before we close the book on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and we're no longer physically capable of producing children, and but we're heavily invested in our children and in the children in our community. And now, with Firefly, which is an education program, we're getting heavily invested in everybody's children to help lift up, families all over the world. So children are a huge part of our story. And, I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be, and I feel like I'm stretched just to the limit of the amount of attention and love that I can give to each kid to raise them as a well-rounded adult. You know what I'm saying? So other people, they have 10, 12, 15 kids, and that's wonderful. And I don't knock it at all, because people look at us like we're crazy. Like, you have 7 kids? Oh my God, how do you do it? I'm like, I could not imagine my life without these 7 people. These are like the greatest 7 people I've ever met. It's a blessing. It's not some curse. It's an amazing blessing. And so I don't look at families bigger than ours that way either. I'm just like, more power to you. Awesome. Like, children are a blessing, from start to finish, but you have to parent them. That's the key to it. And I feel like I am able to be an active, involved parent to these 7 kids, and we're really raising some wonderful people. I mean, they are truly great people.
That's the most important part at the end there, to raise them right and turn them into wonderful people. And what benefits, from your perspective, do you think your kids have from the fact that you have such a large family?
Well, they all have such wonderful and unique relationships with each other. Like, these are friendships. I tell them this all the time. There's a hierarchy of priority in life. And I tell them this all the time. There's God, there's family, and then there's everything else. And not that everything else doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter as much as God and family. And family is an extension of God's blessings, right? And so I tell them that the relationships that you are building with each other are the most important relationships you'll have the rest of your life. The most important friendships, other than with your spouse, that you will have the rest of your life. This is a lifelong journey you're on with these children, even the oldest one and the youngest one. At some point, the age difference between my oldest and my youngest which is 10 years, won't be that meaningful anymore. It's very meaningful now, but it won't be meaningful 15, 20 years from now. And so what you sow into each other right now will last and will inform what your relationships are like the rest of your life. So be kind. And they have really learned responsibility for one another and the importance of family. I mean, one of my favorite movies that I grew up watching was The Godfather, which is not like a movie that a kid should watch, of course, but that just kind of speaks to the upbringing that I had. But this importance on the family and how a strong family really resonated with me. And I'm not part of the, a crime family. What that message was about the importance of family and the tightness and loyalty, family loyalty, was very important to me. And so I've really instilled that in them. They have developed these really powerful alliances with one another, and they're all they're all very, very close. My older sister and I, when we were growing up, we were not close at all. And quite the opposite, actually, which was unfortunate. And my children have the exact opposite type relationships with each other. And I think that is so special, so valuable, and so important. Because whenever a baby would be born, we would present the new baby to the older siblings and say, this is your baby. Look at your baby. This isn't like, no, this is your brother or your sister. No, this is your baby. And so they psychologically developed a responsibility for that baby. And they would want to hold the new baby, and they would want to love the new baby and not feel like the baby was in competition with them for our time and affection. No, they were part of the team that was caring for this baby. And so they have all developed that love and responsibility for one another.
That's amazing. And I'm sure as a parent watching it happen on a daily basis must, go straight to your heart.
Well, seeing like my daughter being like so close to her younger brothers is incredibly healing for me because I didn't have that. I had quite the opposite. And so I love seeing them loving each other and being close and being friends and playing together because they want to, not because they're being forced to. It's very healing for me. That part of me that was hurt as a child, has healed tremendously seeing that play out in our family.
It's awesome to hear. And, on the more practical side of things, families, whether it's 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 7 kids, let's talk about kind of meal planning, grocery shopping for 7 kids, 9 people all together. How do you guys handle kind of just the ins and outs of that on a weekly basis?
Well, it's expensive. My wife is really just a tremendous woman, and she has the most beautiful brain of any brain I've ever encountered. And she is a wonderful planner. She's frugal. We do grocery trips about twice a month. And so we tell the kids, these are the groceries for the next 2 weeks. Use them sparingly. Don't pour, a huge bowl of pretzels or chips or something. If you want a snack, take a reasonable portion. Take a snack. Chips are not a meal. You shouldn't be trying to fill your stomach with chips, right? And so we've had to just instill in them some discipline, and it does not always pan out that way. Who are we kidding? Right? I got 7 kids, 5 boys. They're hungry all the time. So it is expensive, but we are very health conscious about what they eat. So we don't feed them a ton of junk. We're very conscious about artificial food dyes because those things have a real, like, tangible impact on their behavior. You fill kids full of red 40 and blue 1 and yellow Lake 5 or whatever, and they just go bonkers because that stuff is just poison, and it's really, really not good for their brains. So we try to feed them, healthy food. We eat a lot of fruit and veggies, and we just try to get stuff that they'll enjoy. And I'm not saying that we never eat that, like, other stuff, but we try to limit it as much as possible. We use a lot of stevia instead of sugar, in snacks and in baking and smoothies and things. And so, my wife is really, really good about that stuff. I have become good about it by being married to her.
Yep. You've been forced to learn.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
You've been forced to learn. Perfect. Is there, going back to the farm, are you guys producing food on the farm? You mentioned chicken, so probably eggs and
Yeah,
possibly,
for sure.
but some of the food is coming from the farm directly.
A lot of it is actually. So yeah, so we're averaging about 20 eggs a day. And so right now in our mud room, which is, our laundry / egg cleaning room / all-purpose room, there's probably 90 eggs in there that need to be cleaned over the last couple of days that the kids just haven't. All my kids are in a play right now. And so every waking minute is spent preparing for the play because opening night is actually tonight and is this weekend and next weekend. And so some of the things have fallen by the wayside, including egg cleaning. We produce a lot of meat too. So we slaughtered a steer back in October, and I have had I had a female cow that we got a calf from back in August. So the calf's about a year old, and I was about to go breed mom at the farm down the street, and she just got so crazy and like violent that I couldn't even get her into a trailer, and she's been very, very difficult to work with. So I basically cut my losses so I can work with the calf, and the calf won't learn her bad habits. And so we butchered her about 3 weeks ago. So we have a ton of beef that we produce for ourselves. Eventually, I'm hoping to get our beef operation to where we can sell the beef to our community. That is part of our solution. We're also developing our south pasture to be just total food production, 8-foot fence and about roughly 2 acres of growing. So I want to grow more than enough food to feed us and to feed the community. And I mean, that is my grand vision for this place, and putting in fruit trees as well. We have plans to develop part of that field as an orchard as well.
Between creating Firefly and then doing all the food stuff, I think, and having the 7 kids, there isn't going to be too much sleep in the future to
Oh,
make all that happen?
that's only like a quarter of the stuff that I'm doing. I'm also in seminary right now. I may be taking the first part of this next semester off for Firefly's launch, but I'll be in my second year of seminary. I'm also a filmmaker. I've produced a feature-length film that's entirely AI animated that builds lore and mythology around Firefly. And as a musician, I've also just recorded my next album that will be probably finished with all mixing and mastering and all the tracks by November. So yeah, I got a lot going on, buddy. A lot.
We'll have to have a part 2, part 3, part 4 of the interview to
Right?
touch on all that other stuff. Well, shifting over to the homeschool, and we'll touch on Firefly more. But before we go dive into that side, just more on the the kid side of things. So they've been homeschooling for their entire life, correct? From the
Yes.
beginning.
So my oldest was in a private Catholic school in Indiana for preschool, and we did not realize at the time, but he has autism, and it's mild. It's mild autism. He's incredibly high functioning guy. He's awesome, but it's there, and we did not recognize it at the time as that. And the school was having a hard time with him because he would not participate in class like the other kids. And they wanted us to punish him for that. They were suggesting that we hit him, that we, take things away from him, that we do all these things because he was not acting like the other kids. And when really he was absorbing all the information, he knew everything that they were talking about. He got all the concepts, but he just did not. He just didn't like being there. And their suggestion that we punish him physically and emotionally for that really, really ticked me off. And I just pulled him. It was just like, nope, we're not doing this. And so we decided to homeschool, and it was very hard in the beginning because we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what we were doing. Something like Firefly would have been really, really advantageous to have had that when we started out. We started when he was basically 3, 4, somewhere in there. And so that's been about 13 years. He's 17 and a half now. So it's been 13, 14 years. And so all the kids have been homeschooled their entire lives.
That's definitely an important reason to start that process. And I would also have been ticked if I'd heard that same thing about one of my children. So
Yeah.
good on you for making that quick decision and shifting over. And with so many kids, what does the typical homeschool day look like? And I'm sure that's drastically changed over time as they've grown and gotten older, but just kind of from a general perspective for the audience who maybe aren't homeschoolers yet, or just kind of give a high level overview of how it works in your family.
I will give you an answer for that question, but it's like there is no typical day. Every day is different. But a typical day would be, we get chores done in the morning, and then, breakfast, and then they do about 3 hours of school. Like an 8 hour, there's no sense in keeping children, locked to a desk for 8 hours a day. It's just absolutely insane. It's like training for prison. And so they get up and they move, they do the work that they need to do. And then we do other things that they're always learning. We learn all year long. We're always doing different things. But like the core stuff, yeah, they do about 3 hours of school work. And then, basically by noon or 1 o'clock, that's all over with. And then we can focus on other things that they're interested in doing, or doing things as a family. So I would say if there was a typical day, it would look like that. But because we expose them to so many interesting things, and we're always so busy, we always have stuff going on. We also host a micro school here at our ranch. And so it started out as 3 days a week. We've cut it down to 2 just because of just how ridiculously busy we've become. We typically have Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have all the homeschool kids in the community come here, and they get a classroom experience with all age groups in the same room. So, the building where I'm in right now, this is a shop. So it's like a really nice insulated metal pole barn that we really tricked out and finished and put drywall up and put in bathrooms and made it it's actually a really nice living space. And we've turned it into a schoolhouse. So I have my office and my workshop on 1/4 of the building, and the rest of the building is the school. And so we have, 30 to 40 kids that come here. And so on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so there is just so much socialization. That's always a big question about homeschooling is how, aren't your kids going to be weird? Aren't you worried about, no, I'm worried about my kids getting weird from public schools. Like that is a legitimate concern. Kids being weird because they were homeschooling is just propaganda. Our kids are completely well adjusted. They can talk to their peers. They can talk to adults. They're completely well-rounded people. Whereas the public school kids around here have a difficult time even looking me in the eye. They don't know how to talk to people. And so we get a lot of socialization with the other families in the area that want the same thing. Homeschooling is not, I guess, how it used to be viewed, even 10 years ago, even 20 years ago. It's really become far more mainstream and accepted as people have realized the benefits to the kids, to the family. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, is what my dad used to say. And I see the fruit of us pouring into our kids, investing into our kids, sowing into our kids, rather than sending them to Caesar and having them come back as Romans. You know what I'm saying? We're instilling our values and our perspective in the kids, teaching them to be critical thinkers, teaching them to question things, and teaching them to love the Lord at the same time. Like we're getting to instill our values in our kids, and our kids are growing up awesome, and they're having a great childhood. My daughter said to me the other day, like, she really thought about how we've homeschooled them their whole lives and haven't dumped them in a public school. She said it really hit her the other day. This is like a couple weeks ago. It hit her the other day how meaningful that is and how much she actually appreciates that we did that and what we have done for her, by doing that. Like that was kind of neat to have that light bulb turn on in her head. So yeah,
that must have warms your heart. But I do also want to point out, when you're listing all the other things that you have going on, you didn't also mention hosting the micro school. So that's just another thing to add to the list there that you could have rattled off earlier.
Well, in fairness, my wife is really the master behind all of that. Like that was something in her that she really wanted to do, really wanted to give, and something that I mean, she's a teacher. She's been teaching our kids for many years, and she got her master's in teaching in 2020. And while she was in that process, we really came face to face with the agenda that's being put out there through the teachers unions, through the public school system, because it is a system that is incentivized to stay the way that it is. And when we discovered what they were teaching young teachers to teach, my wife and I, we're in our 40s. And so she's not fresh out of college. And she's been on me with this journey. She's been with me on this journey, I meant to say, for all these years. And she knows better when she hears a bunch of propaganda just to believe it. And like the agenda is really, really kind of dark and insidious. And it's no wonder that our country has fallen apart and the young people are so screwed up, because the school systems are complicit in that. They are part of it. It's designed to do that. And so we were so convicted in the spirit by what she was experiencing as a grad student, getting her degree in education, that we felt we had to do something. But, what are we going to do? And she wanted to open up a center to support homeschool families. And I thought that would be a great idea, but we're very rural and there wasn't enough of a market here for us to open up a brick and mortar school and be successful, which is why we started Firefly. But that in-person teaching component is something she really wanted, and so hence we developed our building here to become a schoolhouse. And we host events here and have church here and do all kinds of things here. But the school was the reason we did it, and so she gets to have that classroom teaching experience with our kids and with everybody's kids around here. So it's really great.
That's awesome. Good on both of you. And last thing before we dive deeper into Firefly, you mentioned your oldest children are part of a hybrid program where they're earning their college degree prior to graduating from high school. Talk a little about that for the audience who might not understand what that concept is, and kind of let people know about it.
So in Washington, and I believe in some other states too, but not every state, they have a program called Running Start. And essentially you stop going to high school and you start taking college courses through the community college, and you end up with your associate's degree by the time you graduate. from high school technically. So it is a hybrid high school college program, but you're not taking high school courses, you're taking all college courses. And so my older sons are both in that and doing very, very well. And it gives them a leg up. So when they begin college in, a year and 2 years respectively, they'll already have 2 years of college under their belt, and they can it's literally a running start. You're getting a jump start on your education, and they could potentially have their master's degree by the time other people their age who started at the same time would just be getting their bachelor's. They could do a 2-year master's degree and be done by the time they would be normally finishing a 4-year degree for their bachelor's degree in college.
It's an awesome program for those that haven't heard about it before. If it's available in your area and you're homeschooling, be sure to check it out. And you've mentioned Firefly a few times now, so let's kind of dive deeper into that. So, guys, first question for the audience, tell people, what is Firefly Education Network? Where did it come from and all that story?
Sure. So Firefly, I guess I kind of segued just a minute ago into why we built it. We were having this conversation about what we could do to combat the darkness in the public education space and to help people who want to get out of it and be successful. And, I've been in the blockchain community and space since about 2010. That was when I first heard of Bitcoin. A friend of mine said, "Hey, come up to Philly. We're having a meetup about this thing called Bitcoin." And at the time, I was a big supporter of Congressman Ron Paul, who ran for president in 2008 and 2012. The Ron Paul community was a very libertarian community, and we were the ones pushing Bitcoin the most in the early days because it was a alternative to the Federal Reserve System, which the Federal Reserve is a privately owned bank. For those of you who don't know, it's not an American bank. There's nothing federal about it whatsoever. It's a privately owned bank that has been responsible for every financial crisis this country has had in the last 100+ years, and they have destroyed the value of our currency. And our currency is based on debt and violence. And so, as libertarians, we wanted to have an alternative, and Bitcoin was that promise. And so we were pushing it very much when it was less than $1. I mean, that's how long we've been at. Bitcoin is about $117,000 per Bitcoin now, and so sometimes I can't even let myself think about all the Bitcoin that I've spent on frivolous things back in the early days, because we were trying to get people to adopt it and use it and accept it and get it going. I mean, our community was a big community, but we were very, very enthusiastic about Bitcoin. And so I've been in the space. I've seen everything that's done. I really understand and came to understand the promise of blockchain technology itself and what it really means for the world to free us from centralized systems of control. And I said to my wife, why don't we do Firefly with some kind of blockchain infrastructure? We could launch a crypto token to go with it to be a reward and governance mechanism. Teachers could be teaching from anywhere in the world. Students could be learning from anywhere in the world. I know AI is around the corner. I saw that coming before ChatGPT took over the world, and I was sure that there were going to be tools that would be translation tools and all kinds of things that we could use. So I factored that into our plan and took the idea to some developers I knew and figured out what would it take to create the infrastructure online to replace the public school system so that people could get out of it and be successful. Because a lot of people don't leave the public school because teachers, it's their meal ticket, and many teachers are having to choose between their conscience and paying their rent and eating and getting to eat food. And that's no position for somebody to be in, especially not somebody that's trying to share their love of learning with children. Like, they shouldn't be in that position. That's wrong. So we wanted to create a space where teachers could teach without all the red tape and bureaucracy and all of the political and ideological overreach that has come through. Plus, this was all happening during the pandemic, and we were seeing right through that charade and what the school systems did during that time. But I think that had an unintended consequence that showed people that you can learn from home. Right. And so the homeschool population doubled in those 3 years from 21 to 23, 21, 22, and 23. It went from under 3 million students in the US to over 6 million. And that's no coincidence. It was partly because of the lockdowns. And it was partly because of this radical ideological overreach through the school systems from they, them, those on high. And so they created this massive market for us. And so we raised money in 23 and we have built it. And version 1 is really an amazing tech stack, and we're very excited about it. And versions 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are going to be even more crazy awesome. We're really building this to be a one-stop shop so that any homeschooling family can have all the resources, curriculum, teachers, friends, community, games, activities, even things like organizing sports outside of the platform. This isn't just an online thing. We want people meeting in person. And so we are developing infrastructure to create Firefly chapters. And we have a number of physical locations. We have a partnership with one of the investment groups that gave us initial funding. They have they network of physical locations all over the country and in other countries as well, where Firefly chapters can meet and have school. And so we're really trying to build a viable alternative to public and private schools. And if you want to get your kids out of that system, you want to teach them at home, we want to provide the opportunity for that to actually happen. For you as homeschooling parents to also make money doing it. So this is also a very, entrepreneurial opportunity, because mom and dad homeschooling parent are creating courses at home. They're teaching courses at home. Why shouldn't you be able to build courses and sell them to a community that's looking to buy them? And so we have infrastructure for homeschool parents to make money, and there's even a financial reward system for the students engaging on the platform for platform loyalty and for performance. There are multipliers based with our crypto token that are based on their academic performance, and so it's really an exciting platform that gives mom and dad everything that they could possibly need. And it breaks down barriers because we have tools that make language barriers no longer an issue. And so if you'd like me to, I can talk about the key features of Firefly. That's where you want the conversation to go right now.
No, give a high level overview. I'm sure people are interested in kind of the features, and then tell people where they can learn more if they want to kind of follow that journey for when you guys actually launch.
Yes. And so we're hoping to launch this year. My original goal was to launch in September. Our MVP, our minimum viable product, which is our basic platform, took a little bit longer than we had hoped. And so I think it has pushed the timeline back. But with homeschooling, you're not bound to the public school year. You can start at any time and you can end at any time. It's whatever you want it to be. Now, not every state in the U.S. allows you to do that without interference from some alphabet agency. But by and large, homeschooling can be whatever you need it to be and what you can imagine it to be. And so we have imagined this platform to be somewhere that teachers can really and where parents can feel like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And where kids are excited to log in. And so version 1 is much more heavily favors teachers and content creators at this moment. But before we launch it to the public, we are going to be building out the parent-student side quite a bit more. And so what we have right now today, several products. One of them is, the first one I should say, is Firefly Chalkboard. Now, Chalkboard is an AI-powered course creation tool. And so essentially, you can create full courses with prompts, and you could prompt Chalkboard to create a course on anything you want. The other day, I created a course on amphibians, for example. This is a real course I did, and I told it that I wanted it to cover all major amphibians, both live, and I wanted a portion of the course to also talk about extinct amphibians, not just ones that are living today. We'll talk about the life cycle, their habits, what they eat, what they do, reproduction, all of that. And Chalkboard will give you, first it will give you an outline of the course. It'll give you a course title, a course image. It will give you the course description, and then it will give you the course outline. And the outline consists of 5 lessons with 5 topics in each lesson. So that's 25 topics, and each topic will have 2,500 words. So essentially every Chalkboard course boilerplate comes with 62,500 words, which is a lot of content. And once you approve the outline and you like what's in the outline, if you don't like something, you can regenerate portions of it. You don't have to, you're not stuck with it. You can regenerate it. But if you like what it gives you, then you choose to build the course. It takes about 10 minutes and it gives you this huge amount of data so that you don't have to spend weeks or months researching and developing all of this. It gives it to you. And then from there, if you like everything that you've created or that it's created for you, you can, or if there's anything you don't like, you can regenerate it. And if you do want to continue with what it's given you, you go into our course builder platform where now you can edit it, customize it, add videos, add images, add worksheets, PDFs, activities, anything you can think of. This is where the human part comes in. It gives you the bulk basic content, and then you can refine it however you like and build your course. But it saves you tremendous time and energy and effort, and reduces what takes literally weeks or months, sometimes even years, down to minutes. It's a really powerful tool. And this is not just going to be something for teachers. This is also for the community. So we're turning this tool over to the parents to be able to build courses for their own families and for the community. So imagine you have, I don't know, like 1,000 different families on this platform, and they're all using Chalkboard and creating courses. The amount of community courses that will be available to the community in general is just staggering. And if you choose to monetize your course, you can. And the more you customize the course and the more resources you put into it, the more that course can be worth. But it's really like a free market idea where mom and dad can make money selling these courses that they're building with our tools. The second tool that kind of works almost in tandem with Chalkboard is called Firefly Translate Plus. And Translate Plus is really just amazing. It's a number of different technologies all brought together in one unified product where you can upload video content of yourself talking, like lecturing or what have you, and then you can translate that video content into any language, from any language, not just from English, but from any language into any language. It will voice clone your voice and dub your lip movements to match the new language so that you are realistically speaking in Arabic or Mandarin or Spanish or, what have you. Like, I think we have at least 40 the major languages of the world, and we have the ability to expand that to more nuanced languages as well. And so you can then assign those translated lip dubbed videos into the courses that you've built. And so now the course is not just available to the English speaking market, it's available all over the world. And so if you translated your English course in English into Mandarin, Hindi, and Spanish, you have the majority of the world that you can market this to. And so this makes Firefly international right out of the gate. And it's very realistic rendering. I've done this process to myself many times now. I have video of myself speaking in Italian, in Hindi, in Arabic, in Spanish, in French, in German, in Japanese. And it's really wild to hear yourself speaking in a language that you don't speak. But it allows you to connect with families all over the world in their own language. And we're going to be turning Firefly Translate Plus over to the community as well. It will be a service that they have to pay for because it does cost money to do, but it's not like bank breaking amounts. It's very, very affordable, and it will allow you as the family, if the course you want to take isn't in your language, you'll be able to translate it into your language in the context of the platform and be able to take that course. And so those are first two things that we've built. Then we've also put together Firefly Connect, which is our built-in teleconferencing application. And so instructors will get a free Firefly Connect account that they can create live teleconferencing meetings for live classrooms in the context of their courses. They can't use it like Zoom, where they could use it at any time for any reason. They have to assign the meetings to their courses. And then any children who are enrolled in those courses will get an invitation to that meeting, and then they can attend the live class. There's also Freddie the Firefly, who is our mascot. He's a very, very super cute little purple firefly character who's like a Pixar type character. He is our AI tutor and assistant. Right now, he's confined to the chat bot, but he's always present on every page in the site. You can ask him questions at any point, and he will eventually be like the star of games that we'll build and children's books, and he will be a guide through the site, different parts of the site that we have even yet to build. He'll be the character that introduces you to the features. But he's a really, really fun little character. And if you go to the website, there's a little welcome video with him welcoming you to Firefly and talking in his high-pitched voice, and he's really sweet. But he's a very powerful tool when you're building courses, because when you have gone through the AI workflow of Chalkboard and it has now moved into the course building portion where you are editing, if there's something you want to take out but you want to add something more, you can ask Freddie to give you hey Freddie, can you give me an outside the box suggestion on something to put in this section? And he'll come up with something for you. You know, he's a very useful tool for course creation. He's a very useful tool as an AI tutor, which is really where online education is going. We don't want the human component to be lost here, but we are embracing AI tools in a responsible way. I was and am very, very leery of unbridled generative AI, and I'm very concerned about where that's going and what the long-term effects will be on humanity. But I also recognize the power in the tools themselves if they're used responsibly. And so that is the position that we are taking with AI tools. Is it's not just unbridled, wild use of this. We're not giving a 6-year-old a flamethrower. I mean, that's essentially how I see it. But we are allowing the use of AI in a very responsible way that is not cutting out human learning and cognition and comprehension and human teaching as well. But the tools as they are very useful and practical and are being used in a responsible way. We also have a social media suite that basically anything Facebook can do, you can do on Firefly. You get a profile, you can have friend requests and messaging, you can post and have pictures and video and create groups and which is all part of community. We have a Firefly forum where you can have discussions. I would say it's very Discord meets Facebook. It's very much like a combination of those two apps in its appearance and functionality, but it's private. And it's for Firefly community members. So that is our basic platform as it is right now, and that's a lot. What we're trying to do before we launch is to integrate. One of our tech partners is an education video content library of over 2 million videos that can be filtered through keywords. And so we want to implement this through a user interface on Firefly that is just part of your subscription. Firefly is a subscription-based model. And so you would, as part of your subscription, you would get access to this library. And you could, if you're teaching your kids a course on volcanoes, you would type in volcano and it would filter down the 2 million plus videos down to the probably a couple hundred that were about volcanoes. Or it might give you, if you typed in earth science, it might give you 15,000 videos on earth science, and you can filter it more down until you get what you want. You can also embed these videos in courses that you're making on Firefly, so it enhances your courses as well. We also are developing a partnership with an educational video game company where the children can build their own games, their own, like the entire storyboards, the characters, their features, their powers, of the things that little characters can do. And my kids have been using this particular program for about 12 years, and they love it. And we're looking at implementing them into the platform as well as part of the membership. And there's a whole lot more. Our roadmap is, you would not believe what our roadmap contains, once we get off the ground and get rolling. Yeah, we're very excited about what this can and does mean for homeschool families. And a big part of it is building community. It's helping families find other like-minded families who left the school system for X, Y, and Z reasons. And we all know what those are, right? You'll be able to find friends, and your kids can find more friends. You might find people who live in your town that you have never met, but you met through Firefly. And now you can create a chapter together and get group rates and do group activities, and participate in chapter related offerings that we put out there. So it's really an exciting opportunity. It's something that my wife and I wish that we had when we started homeschooling. But I'm just, I'm excited to give it to other people.
Well, you touched on so many important topics. They're kind of laying everything out for the people. And like you said, it's only the beginning of what you're trying to build. So I will highly recommend anybody who's interested in what Jordan outlined there, hit up the website. I'll put it in the show notes so you can learn more, check out the videos, and, sign up to be informed for when it does launch and be able to kind of dive down that rabbit hole with Jordan and the Firefly team, because I'm sure it'll be a tool that, it's only going to grow from here. And, what can it do for homeschool families that are homeschool families now and, down the line for many years to come. So perfect way to kind of to end the heart of the conversation here. But before we move on to the final two questions of the show, I do want to remind everybody who are watching or listening to visit Shamri.com. You're welcome to use code BFF show for 10% off any product there. Come grab our books, games, whatever your heart's content. Happy to send stuff your way. And I will also say that, it sounds like Freddie and our Bitcoin monsters would probably be good friends. So maybe you'll see them pop up in the Firefly universe one day.
Well, that would be an amazing way to collaborate. I would love to explore that with you. That'd be so much
Exactly.
fun.
No, I think it'd be fun. And I'm sure that Freddie will be more advanced than the clip guy from Microsoft back, many years ago.
God, I hope so. I hated that clip.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, with that said, let's wrap up the show with the same way we always do with the final two questions. The first one being a common saying in the Bitcoin space is Bitcoin is time. Another belief is that time is the scarcest asset the world has ever created. Playing off of all of that, what is the biggest gift of time that learning about Bitcoin has provided you and your family?
Well, we've lived on Bitcoin for a number of years. Bitcoin completely changed my life, and even though I look back and I'm like, God, I spent, tens of millions of dollars in Bitcoin on, nonsense stuff when it was, worth very little. If I and many others like me hadn't done that, it would not be providing for me now, So Bitcoin really it really has held the promise of decentralized financial system where the banks are not in charge and where you can become your own bank and you can truly be financially independent and be free of central banking. Like that is a really important thing that I don't think a lot of people really understand. And I am just so glad that I understand it. And if it wasn't for Bitcoin, Firefly wouldn't exist. And so I feel like being on this Bitcoin journey has enabled me to build something that could really help a lot of people and change the world.
Perfect answer there. And like you said, you can't always regret, that spending in the past because it's doing so much good now and will continue with everything you're building. And the final question, if you had one Bitcoin to give each of your kids, all 7 of them, at what age would you give them the keys and why?
Oh, that's a neat question. I don't know, man. I mean, I would probably wait until they were adults, and that doesn't necessarily mean 18, maybe 25, maybe 25, because by the time any of them are 25, Bitcoin's going to probably be, $2 or $3 million of Bitcoin, So I'd be more inclined to turn the keys over to that when they, are ready for that level of financial independence and responsibility.
Perfect way to look at it. Well, that's a wrap on an awesome interview on a lot of different subjects here. Thanks so much for jumping on the show. Glad we got to meet in person in Vegas a month or so ago. I'm sure everybody will be excited to learn about Firefly. So I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes.
Great.
But before we sign off, any other places or final words you want to send the audience?
Well, I'm just, grateful for the opportunity, Scott. Thank you so much. And we're excited about Shamri as well and all the amazing products that you're creating. And we, look forward to making those available to Firefly families because we really, really love what you're doing and love your brand and everything that you're about. I would just say, if you go to fireflyedu.org, you can sign up for our email list. And that's a big deal right now because the email list is really where I'm able to communicate with our community and let you know what's happening in an up-to-date way. So when we're going to be launching, you'll find out about the token and what's happening with that and any new offerings or tools that we incorporate. Again, we're not open yet, but the website is live. You can apply to be an instructor there. There's a link at the top of the page. Join our email list, and I would encourage you to do that. If you've enjoyed what we've talked about and you're interested to learn more, join the email list because that's how you're like those folks are going to find out what's happening with Firefly first before anyone else.
Like we said, well, that'll all be in the show notes. So if you didn't catch any of that, be sure to dive on down, be able to link off and sign up. Well, thanks everybody for watching or listening to another episode. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Hi, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a good review. And buy your kids some stuff at sawmary.com today. Bye. 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 Bye.